Wanted to play tonight. Good morning. I think it's after 12, so good morning. Thought I'd come tonight. I felt a little bit energized to come and share a little bit. So thank you for joining me. And if this is the first time you ever check me out, I go by 8-Wind is Timeless, or 8-Wind Eagle, or Starface, or Time Lord. I am the Galactic Daddy-O, sitting on my galactic patio. I am the holder of the infinite sacred ball game that's created by the Hero Twins. I do want to start off, I joke, and I want to start off this way. I always joke about this Drakkar. Now, I got a case of this just given to me. Never smelled it. Had a friend come over, and he said he had the other kind. Now, I make a joke about this stuff. I never opened the box. They give you this huge bottle. Look how big this bottle is. I mean, full. And look at the sprayer. I mean, this stuff is full. Look how big this bottle is. And it smells like Nivea. Now, I haven't got paid by them, so, but it smells like Nivea. Like, when you take a shower, sometimes you have that smell if you have scented soap. And it has that fresh smell. This is what this smells like. Like I spray it on my curtain in my bathroom, but it makes it smell good all day. So I've been clowning this stuff, and then this is the other little bottle. So you can keep this in your car, I guess. But it's like these are huge bottles, which I never opened this stuff until this guy came over. He's like, "Yeah, that stuff," and it doesn't smell bad. So I'll apologize to Drakkar Essence, Guy Larache. This stuff really doesn't smell bad. And for the value, this big old bottle, I don't know how much this stuff cost. So wanted to get that in there. That's my first thing. Wanted to get that in there. Just drinking water tonight. So smoke them if you got them. Pop them if you want them. I mean, it's up to you. What's happening, Israel? Dr. Sinister, James, Strong Discernment, what's happening? Alito, what is happening? And Gray, what is happening? Thank you for joining me on this late hour. I usually don't have subjects, but I do have a couple subjects. So my daughter's mother had some estate business to take care of, and she brought back this book, was the 100th year of Rochester. Again, I always talk about the best hospital in the world is in Rochester. It's a hospital city. And it's the centennial from 1954, obviously from her father. Father would have been, if he was alive, he would have been a little older than me, probably closer to 70, 71, if he was alive. But it talks about a few things I wanted to share that is interesting. Says, maybe it's one page back. Here we go. So in 1931, near Pelican Lake, workmen evacuated the skeleton of a girl that may have been 20,000 years old. This is here in Minnesota. They found a body of a person 20,000 years old. Long before the melting the great lakers, the great glacial lake here in Minnesota. In 1934, another skeleton was uncovered in a gravel pit in Browns Valley. These bones were thought to be around 12,000 years old. So these are not Berrien Springs or Berrien Straits people, which never happened. The Berrien Straits, that's something they made up. Mostly people came down from Canada, even from Canada, Alaska side. If you look at the habits of the people that lived in mostly the Midwest in the 1800s, they were more like mongrels. They followed animals, and that's kind of what the mongrel people did. But the one part I wanted to share was, so these people came over here. And these people were pretty much given free land. The Europeans, like these Europeans came from New York, they were pretty much given free land. They didn't have to pay for the land. If you look at what they did in Pennsylvania when the Quakers came over, they were given land, and they didn't measure acres. They measured land by walking, how many walking strides. So like now we do our when we work out, we do our steps. Well, they counted steps as, like they would do some acres, and then they would count the steps on how many steps that you owned in that area. But so in 1854, most of them came here. The territory of Minnesota was created in 1849. The best lands, all west of the Mississippi River, those lands belong to the Sioux Indians. The settlers, of course, wanted them. This is what they say in 1954. The settlers, of course, wanted them in the U.S. government. And a way was found to get them. In the summer of 1851, the Sioux were dispossessed, pushed off their land by a treaty as far west as the Big Sioux River. In 1854, Chippewa of the Lake Superior area, which is way up north, were induced in part with their lands. And in 1855, the red men in the vicinity of the headwaters of the Mississippi River were moved out, persuaded to sign away their lands. And like this is written with no objectivity, like there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, when they make a statement, the settlers wanted them. And it's just like in Oklahoma, the Sooners, land was then free, but it was unsurveyed. The hard spirit of the pioneers seemed to have been spiced with conspicuous dash of cupidity. It is recorded that the impetuous immigrants did not wait for much land to be surveyed officially. They dashed in and took what they wanted, what they could lay their hand to. With them came the usual free boasting crew of bummers, knobs, and sharpers. So, the land was free. And these are the same people that tell you today that you don't even need anything back. And so I wanted to share that. I was going through that a week ago, and I forgot to share that. And this is what King later talks about in the mid-60s, when King talks about how they were giving free lands, pushing these people further and further off the lands. I mean, my people were on the East Coast. The Obaweji came from New York, and now they're in upper Minnesota. And it was like infringed, war. And somebody put something beautifully when they talked about the Red Stick Wars, is how it was really the people went to war against them to stop them from slaving, because this is how the original slavery started. is the tribes with like the Cherokee. The Cherokee was one of the early tribes that sided with the British, and they helped slave. Defeated enemies would be slaved. The same thing, the Westos. The Westos is another tribe, and I've talked about them before, where the Westo tribe was slaving almost for 100 years. When the Spanish started coming up and trying to get into the lands and slave more Indians to take back to Mexico City, the Westos was in the area selling them slaves. So the Westos went from the east coast of Minnesota down to the Arizona, Texas area and was still slaving. Ziggy, what's up? Well, what's interesting and what they claim is for people that Medicare, Social Security, they'll get money, this check. They say if the government shuts down, that even the Social Security, that kind of thing is going to be held unless they pass this. Now, as far as the government spending, see, you can tell when it's a spell, when they put a spell out there. And a week ago, I heard an underling really push the first spell, and the spell saying that this $1 trillion won't cost anything. And then that was an underling that said it first. And then Biden said it, Pelosi said it. So, but we've seen this in the past, and we know like what happens every summer. Everybody, what happens every summer? We see pork money. Now, I've talked about how they built 2 roundabouts very near, not far where I live, but very near each other. And until this last summer, no brothers down here. No brothers on any of this pork money is my point. Now, some Hispanic brothers, yeah, seen some of them, but no brothers till this summer. So it's the same kind of thing. Who's going to benefit from the money? What is going to change the way the money is spread out? And this taxing the rich has been a ploy since Johnson was president and running against not McCarthy. Yeah, maybe McCarthy. When Johnson, after Kennedy got killed, I mean that's never been. I mean, we started off with a society that taxed rich people at 75%. So rich people didn't want to make more than $250,000 because most of it was going to the government. And then you had Johnson that knocked it down to 60 some, and then you had Reagan put it damn near where it is today. But at one time, there was no benefit in their greed. Like France, I think France still has a 50% tax rate. So nothing will change. Nothing will change. The money's not going to help the people. The money's going to help fatten the pockets of people's pockets that's fat already. Strong Security started mailing workers letters that funds will be gone. Social Security started mailing workers letters. Wow. Hey, Napturo, what's happening? Hey, Lobo. Social Security started sending mailing workers letters with funds will be gone. Yeah, that's what's interesting. And the thing about Social Security, especially with the baby boomers, I'm a baby boomer because it doesn't cut off till 64. It's 48 to 64. And I was born in 61. And so we are older people now. The people born in the 40s, these people in their 70s. Even if you're born in 51, you hit 70 this year. So, we're talking about a lot of old people, Obama would be put in there as well. So, hey, Iron 5, thank you for joining me. Hey, Jay, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Same back to you, brother. Peace and love back to you. Very kind to say. So we'll see. I mean, they thought they had a shortage before. I mean, you say you're not going to pay the Section 8. You're not going to pay all these doctor bills. We're going to see. Oh, your father just turned 70 this year, so he's 10 years older than me. Okay. Hey, PJ, what's happening? You at work? What's going on? Felt a little inspiration tonight to keep in practice. I know that I listened to myself last time, and my son gets strep throat, and so I know last time I came on, it was probably not sounding so right because I was fighting strep for my son. He just still has an oral fixation, always just sticking bullshit in his mouth. so, and so, if you think the housing crisis was bad before, what is it going to be now? When you say that all these people, Section 8, all these people that only have income from the government, because Social Security, they didn't borrow from it. Bill Clinton was the first one to gamble with it. If y'all remember that. Social Security has paid for itself. And Bill Clinton was the first that they passed laws to be able to tap into it to let him gamble with it. And so now when they say it's going to run out in such and such year, not before Bill Clinton became president, they showed that this system for baby boomers was going to last through their lifetimes. But Bill Clinton was the first borrowing against it. Something that really is separate, but Clinton was the first to be able to tap into it. And then, of course, Obama did too. They paid Bushes and Obama, so. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. When France decided to tax their wealthy, they simply moved away and France never recovered. That's interesting. But I remember it's a lot of supermodels that still live in France because that's where one of the garment districts is. And a lot of them people didn't move. A lot of the tennis players stayed in France. A lot of actresses and actors still stayed. So I would say maybe if everybody moved away, I don't know. It's funny. I used to have a contract with the air base in Michigan in Battle Creek, and I talking to soldiers, and soldiers said that France was one of the nastiest places they had ever been on earth. It was like apparently in France, and I don't know if this is in the winter time because I know they do get snow there. But like when you go pee, it's just you covered up to your chest. So you would go pee, you only covered up to your chest. So you just put it around you and your whole upper body's out and you just pee. And I guess it's very similar if you have to poop in public, your head be like up. That's what they was describing. So I was like, okay. But they said it was a nasty place to live. So I don't know. It's nowhere there's nothing I want to see in Europe. I don't want to see the pyramids. There's nothing in the rest of the world I want to see other than in Mexico, South America. But I've been to Canada, so that's no big deal. But I don't want to go to Russia. I don't want to see that shit in Greece. That's not any of my culture other than the language. So nothing impresses me with that kind of stuff, Go see where Hitler kicked it or something like that. and the censorship now, the censorship, which really is going on. They talked about how they took away all the channels in February and March. They killed my last channel, like what was Biden in 4 or 5 days? I think it was January 6th. They killed over my 3,000 videos from 14. And I didn't really even say anything. Not really. I just told them my own personal experience and I related something my doctor said. And so we see the censorship is up. Almost makes not wanting to be a content creator, almost. If you can't just talk about anything, because all they're spewing right now is fear propaganda. And so the people that speak against the propaganda, now they want to mute you for speaking against propaganda. So now a lot of people been spewing. See, this, like I noticed listening to Zach Hubbard tonight. Zach was saying like about armed resistance and when are the people going to put up a fight. This is the thing. Most people ain't killers. Now, this is the land of the imbecile psychopaths. But when it comes down to killing one-on-one, most people ain't killers. Revolution means the ultimate sacrifice. Because when you outnumber a thing, and like if you watch Enemy at the Gates, remember the Russians gave every other dude a rifle and gave the other one bullets? Like as soon as he died, you pick one up and you grab a rifle. I don't know that we have that. because we outnumber the military people. And Biden said it right. He said we don't have jets, but we don't really need that. I mean, what was shown here last summer is you can overwhelm them with numbers. And again, most police ain't killers either. Most police are trained to defend themselves, but not to kill. And I know you watch television and they show, they want to scare you with all these probably fake shootings, probably theatrical shootings. But that's what they are, to scare you. Because the people have the numbers. The people have the numbers. Yeah, they making us talk in code like they do. Exceed. Hey, Key, what's happening? What is the fuckery deal, y'all? Love and positive energy. Thank you for joining, Key. YouTube is shook because these companies are losing money from the thing, and now we see the blackout because of the Arizona's audit. There you go. There's a lot of pressure on them. Somebody was saying look into the dates, because some of this shit's about to run out and be old, and they're gonna have to get rid of it. And they're pissed. The government is pissed because they done paid for this shit. They done paid for this shit, and this shit's about to expire because enough people ain't joined. So keep that in mind too. Keep that in mind too. So it's funny, like I'm getting so good at just watching these games. That's why I got to watch another game and broadcast while I watch. I was watching, I don't remember if it was the Dodgers game or it was because I was going back and forth between who played the late game. Yeah, the Dodgers and Padres played the late game last night too. And I was just looking. No, it might have been the Twins. It might have been the end of the game with the Twins. And I was looking, and I know how they end games. And I was like, it was the Twins playing Detroit. So the first two people got up. So the score end up being 3-2, but it was 3-0. Detroit comes back and scores 2 runs. So after they score 2 runs, they get out. And I'm looking like they going to hit the next dude. Or it was like they scored 2 runs. How did it go? But it was like I was looking, I was like, okay, they don't want this to end. Okay, so they scored 2 runs and it was 2 outs. And I was looking, I'm like, this dude ain't going to get out. They going to hit him. And sure enough, the Twin pitcher hit the Detroit dude. Because that's what I was thinking. I was like, watch them hit him. And then the next dude going to get out. And that's what happened. He hit a player. And then the next dude either struck out or flied out or grounded. I think he grounded out. But I was sitting there like, damn. Because I could just look at the way they was. And I watch a lot of baseball. I really do. I don't report a lot on it, but I watch a lot of baseball. I am a big Twins fan. I mean, growing up, I loved Mickey Mantle. I loved Hank Aaron. I loved Willie Mays, Frank Robertson, Vida Blue. I know people don't remember Vida Blue, but I loved Vida Blue his first couple years. Vida Blue, I've talked about Pat Mahomes Sr. being one of the best athletes I ever met. Vida Blue was probably one of the better athletes to come out of Texas, too, because Vida Blue, now again, he came out in the late 60s, early 70s, so he might have not got to play quarterback in high school, but he was good enough to play quarterback in high school. I believe he was an all-state football player, and he was left-handed, big guy. Should be in the Hall of Fame. They probably knocking him because he had some problem with cocaine, so, But so I'm able to kind of look to see how they're doing this thing. And when you see a home run, it's batting practice. It's batting practice. When they want a person to hit a homer, they throw him a pitch right down the middle. Oh, you just got back from the White Sox game. Okay, cool, Jay. Padres came all the way back tonight. I was watching. Yeah, that's what I watched too. I watched the Twins beat the Tigers again. I think they won. Yeah, it was 3. Yeah, it was 3-0, I think. And then I watched the first game. Who was on the early game? The Yankees lost. Yankees lost to Toronto, didn't they? Early game. And then I watched the late game that just went off, or if it might still be going on. Did it just go off? But yeah, Padres killed him. They put one pitcher in there. He threw with a one run lead. He threw 6 straight balls, throwing 100 miles an hour, and can't throw a strike. You got a 3-0 or 3-1 count, throw a strike. Won't do it. So, but he gave up. It was 6. He gave up 4 runs. They like took him out. Most home runs are right down the pipe or super slow, hanging in the speed. 70. Yep. Strong discernment. Exactly. Yep. Did they say how bad that out hurt his shoulder on the when he slid into second base? When the Padre player, what was his name? He slid into second base, looked like he hurt his arm, but he already had his arm wrapped up. I think it was something wrong with it already. But yeah, then another dude just hit. Before I turned it off, dude just got a hit and pulled a hamstring. So they're going to be kind of if they make the playoffs. So, and the Yankee player was up for the pitching MVP. I can't think of what it's called, which I should know it, but it skips my mind right now. But whoever the best pitcher is. And so the Yankee dude gave up 6? 5, at least 5. He gave up at least 5. So yeah, he's not gonna get it. You watch a lot of college football? I do watch a lot of college football. And PJ, I put that up for you. Did you see what I was telling you? How these Big Ten schools or big schools pay these small schools to come in? How they get paid? That's why I put that up. So Bowling Green put it on them. And it was the first time I've watched that coach, because that coach used to coach where I used to work at Western Michigan University. And this is the first time I ever watched him get out-coached. Not out-talented, but out-coached. He got out-coached, out-prepared. He was out-prepared in every way. Every way he was not prepared. And it was the first time I saw that. And I think they had a bye, so I was surprised. But yeah, I watch a lot of college football too. Yeah. Cy Young, yes, thank you, Cy Young, yeah. So yeah, I watch a lot of college football. And I mean, it's so much come on. Like actually, the games normally come on Friday night if you watch. This Friday is our homecoming. Oh, and I'm going to see the Browns and the Vikings. My son called me this morning. He's like, because my son went to the game last week. He saw the Vikings play last Sunday when they won, and so he was like, do you still want to go to see Cleveland? I'm like, yeah. He said, all right, I'll go pick up the ticket. So it looks like we're going to the game. You know, I'm going to be wearing the purple Thielen jersey because I love number 19. Hey, CJ, what's happening? You watch a lot of NBA, and are you going to the league is more talented? Let me see. Christian, what did you say? You watch a lot of NBA. Are you going to the league is more talented? No, I put it on. I put it in the comments. I put it in the comments on YouTube. So you'd have to go to the community, the comments, where that is. I put that in the comments. Is the league more talented? I really can't. Like I've talked in depth about the play in the early 70s, and the play in the early, like before Bird and them got in, before Bird and Magic came in 78, 79, 80 season, that their rookie season. If you looked at and I guess I'll go from the merger on. The merger happened in 77. So even if you looked at even the old ABA play, say going from 75 to Bird and them come, I don't know if that talent was surpassed, because if you looked at basketball in 75, 76, 77, 78, whoever got the ball scored. I mean, it was that efficient. Whoever got the ball pretty much scored. And I don't know that we're that efficient now. And I know you can look at, and the 3-point shot didn't come in until the early 80s. But if you looked at the efficiency of the game, and I can't say it was a lot more physical game, because that's how defense kind of made up. What defense lacked in moving your feet, it was the physical game. You know, you see Jabbar get elbowed by Kent Benson, which broke a couple of Jabbar's ribs, and Jabbar popped him, broke his hand. I mean, it was the 70s. It was as common to see a fight as in hockey. It really was. It was just as common to see them fight as in hockey. Colleges, not so much. But pros, very common to see a pro games. I watched a bunch of exhibition games. They always came to Western Michigan when I was a boy, and they would get in a fight in the exhibition games. Now I've talked about the biggest head of any person I've ever seen was Artist Gilmore. I mean, Artist Gilmore head. I mean, I don't even know. I could give you the dimensions. I mean, he had like, if you look at my body, this much was head. His head would cover this much of my body with the hat. So if I stood, if he was on his knees, this, and I'm 6 foot, he would cover, his head would cover this much of me. He had the biggest head of any man I've ever seen. Hey, Unique Breed, thank you for joining. Yeah, LeBron did it. Yeah. Fighting back. Oh, yeah, with Wiggins and Beal. Not LeBron, but I mean, they have a strong union. And if you guys caught, and that's why I almost came on last night. If you caught what the union said last night, the union is setting up testing, daily testing too. And what the union proposed last night is that the players will be isolated. They would have to wear masks and be isolated. So the union ain't finished with this stuff yet. Now, I think it's like Wiggins. I don't see Wiggins being the puppet. I see Kyrie being a puppet. So Kyrie is that controlled opposition. I don't think he's organic. I think they had to stick because Wiggins did it. The young man that's a minister, is he in Memphis? That young man that he refused to bow down. Remember the young man during the Black Lives Matter bubble? He refused to bow down because that's what they was teaching you. That's what Kaepernick taught you. You bow down to them, like with the Queen. That's bowing down like the Queen. One knee is bowing down like the Queen. I've said this many times before. When I was a boy, no one stood for the national anthem, at least not melanated people. And I've always went to a lot of sports. I went to my first pro game. Well, I've told this before. I saw Jim Brown play as a little boy, 2-3 years old. We were in California. I got to see Deacon Jones. But I was only 2 years old. But that was the first time I went to a pro game. But when I was 12, I went to a game too. And so, I've been to a lot of pro sports all my life. And we just didn't stand. I mean, again, Western Michigan was probably the most in the high schools. And during the 70s when my cousins played, we didn't stand. It didn't change until I got into high school. When I was in 10th grade, they said, if you don't stand, you be put off the team. So when I was in 10th grade, we started standing. And that was 76, 77 season. But from the time I was probably in third grade, when I was in third grade, you know how you pledge allegiance? My father was an agent, but my father, and I think, my father was probably one of my handlers, and he, they wanted a type of opposition. And so I didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance starting in third grade. And from third grade, fourth, fifth, and sixth, that's when they still said it. You get in junior high, they stopped. And again, my junior high was 6th, 7th, 8th. No, 7th was 7th, 8th, 9th. We weren't in high school when I was in 9th grade. We were still in the junior high. But from the time I was in third grade, everybody else stood up. I didn't stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So it meant nothing to me when I was third grade is 7, 8? I mean, I've said this before. It was funny, like you take melanated high schools against, European high schools. The national anthem would come on. One side would stand up. The other side would be all sitting down. Like you went down to Benton Harbor, Michigan, where it was just everybody and a few little people that would come visit. Nobody would stand. Not in the 70s. So, well, LeBron is paid. He's paid. And we know he's a stooge. So, yeah, he's definitely a major puppet. Yep. That's a good point. Where's the proof? Yep. Like they showed the pictures in India where the people really wasn't, it was just pictures. Remember that? I don't know. Did y'all catch those pictures in India? It's supposed to be the prime minister and the assistant prime minister. And they're just doing like this. They're just, where's a pin? This is really what they did. They just did like this. They touched their arms. No plunging, no nothing, just touched them. They just touched them, and people were like, "Hey, we watch what you did." And they was like, "Well, we got the real thing off camera 6-7 months ago, but we were," and they said it. They said we was trying to push propaganda. We was trying to give it publicity. Yeah. LeBron is part of the. Yeah. Well, he's bootleg. Now, see again, like ABL said, why young men? Why would you need young men to do that? Young men in top shape. If you look at basketball players, you're talking about in shape players. I mean, you're constantly moving. Football, baseball, but football players, you run fast and then you stop. You got time to regroup. Basketball, you never get time to regroup. So these are people, you got to be in good shape. I mean, if you want to play well, you got to be in good shape. So, PJ says dad wanted to whoop his ass because when he played because he didn't want to stand because of Craig Hodges. There you go. The current goal toward the attempt to trigger an unrest. Please practice your version of nonviolent, but yet unwilling to participate with the fuckiness. Beza full. That's a good point. LeBron, sorry to say, knows and embraces being a sellout. Of course, stick to the non-compliance. And lengthening time is on our side. I would say I somewhat agree with that. But as I said before, what's going on in the neighborhoods is, especially here, what's going on here is what they call over north, where most of the melanated people live. Well, let's even go to the south side where you go to like where the area where Floyd got killed is broken down like this. You go so far and you see Indians, like natives. Then you go so far, you see Somalians. And then you go so far, you see the melanated people. And then you go so far, you see the poor Europeans. I mean, it's kind of cut up like that. Like what's funny is you drive down Lake Street, which would take you technically all the way into St. Paul. But it's funny, you look at the stores where what used to be stores, because a lot of them stores is burned out, but you would see the different clothes and the different type of stores as you went that way. Well, police are already not policing in that area. Around where he got killed, they've been not going in that area. And I think I reported that 6 months ago. And so they're already not policing in that area. The north side is pretty much being held hostage by these two gangs. Oh, and there is one thing I did want to bring up. I hope this is the paper. And so we know that this is where, if anything comes out, it's going to come out of that. SD Shannon Sharp said a couple weeks ago that would be mandatory. Yeah. Hate Kareem. Yeah, I had to give it to Kareem, definitely. Years down the road, people are going to pull his teeth out to sell out his footage out. Yeah, and I've said this, Kareem is definitely, he's broke. I mean, this is like when Kareem went on public and said he had to sell his trophies, he was selling them for his foundation, a youth camp. So normally when people have camps like that, brothers around the league pitch in. You ain't got to sell your stuff. But that's how desperate he was. And we've seen this in the past. George Mikan is a prime example. There's a statue of George Mikan in the Target Center. Don't you know George Mikan, I think, ended up with diabetes. He had to sell all his trophies and shit to pay for his hospital bills because the old NBA people weren't they didn't get any pension or anything. And I think he ended up having diabetes and he removed a leg, but he had to sell all his rings and everything because of his hospital bills. But I forgot, I want to read this. I forgot to read this story. This story probably didn't hit national news. This was an Amazon worker. Shakopee man indicted on first-degree murder charge. Faces a mandatory life sentence if convicted. A jury indicted a Shakopee man Thursday on first-degree murder charge in connection with the death of his girlfriend in July. Whatever his name is, charged with first-degree murder with intent by a grand jury on the death of what her name is. He also faces an existing charge for second-degree murder with intent from July, according to another case. If convicted on first-degree murder, Minnesota law will give him mandatory. Court documents allege that this 55-year-old at the intersection of 4th Avenue and Spencer Street in Shakopee around 2 p.m., this is in broad daylight, told the victim if she threatened to break up with her. So the victim told him that she was going to break up with him, which he told her he threatened her with a knife. Then this dude in broad daylight is accused of then beheading and throwing her body out of a vehicle in front of the onlookers. Cut this chick's head off in front of everybody and threw her headless body out in the car. Multiple people testified that they witnessed the incidents with cell phone video, which I haven't seen any of that, and recorded from inside a nearby residence. She worked for Amazon. In broad daylight, he stabs her and then cuts her head off. Now, is that to all be damned? I mean, what? Like, she appeared to be. I couldn't really tell. He looked to be a brother. Sarbarat, maybe he's one of the Russians. She couldn't tell. But yeah. Isn't that some shit? Broad daylight cuts the chick head off. Yep. Hey, Barbara, thank you for joining. Yeah, Kareem Jabbar. Yep. Yeah, you saw the video? Okay, Nepturial says she saw. I didn't see the video. Okay, yeah, they got video of that shit. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see it either. Kaepernick's, but I remember, now, PJ, you probably didn't check out my old channel. On my old channel, I showed where a wrestler, it's one of the wrestlers on WWE, and he always flexes his back out, like when he jumps on the ring, very athletic dude. But he was wrestling a dude, and his dude did just like Floyd. On my other video, on my other channel before they erased it, I showed the same thing, where the wrestler, that brother let the wrestler do the Floyd maneuver on him. And the dude put it just like the Floyd, looked up. And I showed that. I made a video out of that. So I know they hate that was that one. I showed that one. But yeah, same way. So yeah. But as I was saying before, is they're trying to make communities into prison little towns, is what they're trying to do. And they're going to arm the people they back. They're going to let them bring in more drugs. They're going to let them get more weapons. And they're going to, as they pull the police out of the neighborhoods, they're not going to just give it up. And as I've said many times here, they're frightened of 15 to 20-year-olds. That's what caused Floyd. Brothers 15 to 20 was the first ones out in the streets. And this is who they've armed. Because don't think like they showing being Black Mafia family and stuff. And I've said this many times, and I want to get back to my point, but part of YBI's starting was carjacking. That's what YBI started, carjacking and selling heroin. Selling heroin wasn't cocaine till later. But anytime you see a glorified dope person, they work for them peoples. They're agents. Scarface was an agent. He was a hitman and he was an agent. And you can say, well, at the end, he didn't kill who they were supposed to kill, which was unrealistic. He would have killed him. But getting back to my point, they're about to vote in Minneapolis in the next 2 weeks. Maybe it's November, but within the next 5-6 weeks, if they want to get rid of the police or not. And I'm already going to tell you the way it's going to go is they're going to get rid of the police. The police are going to back certain criminals because they're doing it already, trying to show that they're needed. And that's not going to stop. And what's going to happen is we're going to see a mafia-style gangs running these cities with military, FBI, police backing. That's what it's happening already. It's happening already. It's like they kicked all the police here because the police had it fat here for years. Like the dude Chauvin and Floyd, they worked in the same club doing security. Chauvin worked at the door, Floyd worked inside. So they knew each other. So that make you wonder if it's real or not, because these cats knew each other. But then there's a shooting downtown, and there hadn't been a shooting downtown in forever. So we know it comes from the police. We know it comes from them. There's no way it doesn't. No way it doesn't. Had 2 club shootings within a week or two. So it comes from them. Order out of chaos. There you go. Search double-headed eagle tattoo on George Floyd. Yeah. I showed that. I tell you what, that was one of my Facebook pages that went crazy and made people go crazy. Super Sly sent that to me, and I put that on Facebook, and people lost their minds. People lost their minds seeing the video of him doing his sex film. A lot of police and firemen already fighting back due to vax. Player pays in the hands of them peoples. Yeah, it does. Plays right into their hands. And so this is where, my first, this is where you're going to have to do like a Deacons of Defense. I mean, I could rid that area because all you have to do is have a strike force. And you can't not think, you have to put power, you have to put it against power. You can't be meek against power. It ain't going to work. Now, would I think selling weed at the little store should be allowed? I say no. I say if you're going to sell weed, go to your house, sell weed in your house. We don't care. You want to sell crack in your house? Sell it in your house. Don't bother your neighbors. Then we ain't got a problem. You want to sell heroin, crystal meth? Long as the neighbors don't complain, we ain't got a problem. The minute some of your funkiness gets into the neighbors, the strike force come in and mop you up. And after you do that 2 or 3 times, they're going to respect the power. And you don't need police for that. You just need young men that live in the area that's willing to go to war, because that's what it would be. That's what it's going to be. And without that kind of effort, you're going to be held hostage in your neighborhoods. And it's going to happen in a lot of other neighborhoods. Now, Charles Barkley said that in the suburbs, they ain't getting rid of the police, which is probably partially true. But again, with a lot of these funds cutting and inflation hitting, like the girl that killed the young man on just a traffic stop that happened here, that chick was making $100,000 on a little area, about 20,000 people, if that. She's making $100,000. Probably had a police force of about 20, 30 people, if that. So, PJ, they wiped all that out. I have a little bit of those videos on TalkShoe. As I said before, I had to buy some of the stuff, so I'm kind of sitting on that. I do have a few that I was able to buy because there's some Russians so a little bit. Couldn't afford it all, but a few. So I might re-release some of those. BMF ain't going to work against their people on that level. Yeah. But carjacking, and like this is, and I've said this before, carjacking was started by YBI. And what it was like, take a 1975 Cutlass. And you're talking about a 1970, say even an older one, say a 72, 73 car. That car in 78 might have only been worth $1,000. But if you parted it out, you might get $6,000, $7,000 for it. That's what it was. It wasn't that stupid shit like you saw in New Jersey Drive where brothers just stealing cars to joyride. No, it was a business. It was a business. People was taking people's cars, taking them to the chop shops. And that was before that was before the VIN numbers were on everything. The VINs used to be just on the engines. But a lot of now VINs is almost on everything of your car. Most of the parts that are worth something, VIN numbers are on them. Like catalytic converters, one reason why people stealing them because there's no VIN number on those. But most of the internal parts now have VIN numbers on them, so you can track the parts. Didn't used to be like that. But people like Al Prophet and others are just the dope, And then if you listen to the dope people, they sold heroin. Crack was a later group. And then now, it's like these cats that was working for the government then, went to federal prison. And we know some federal prisons wasn't that, it's like being at a resort. I never hear ambulances, these flooded COVID emergencies, but paramedics are saying they are getting more calls than COVID. Wow. Yeah, I've heard of that too. Hey, Liquid Fire, what's happening? Thank you for joining me. At least it would be out there, easy to spot. Old school was always undercover, hiding behind. Yeah. But so that's all it would take to clean your neighborhood up. But that it's going to take that. You have to have a shock force that's willing to go up against them. And, you're going to have to be as armed as well as the government's going to arm them. Because, again, the government ain't just going to completely pull out. They want to get their profits, too. Because it's profit in police. It's like I've watched, again, I personally watched, when I was a police officer, 22 keys missing from an evidence locker. And then the keys back in the streets the following week. I knew of a small town where the biggest dope dealer was one of their officers. And this guy, after 20 years of selling dope in the city, the police chief had to call the feds in to give him help. New chief came in because that guy had paid everybody off. Hard to, back then the cops was probably making 50. And then this dude is, handing all this loot out. Who you going to be, who's the allegiance going to be to? The new chief where you make 50, or this dude is giving you an extra 50? So that's what he was up against. Nonviolence will win. I don't know, to clean the neighborhoods up, it will. Now, nationally, maybe, but right now, if you look at who's, I've already seen who's they're letting. I wish I would have saved that article because maybe the article was over the phone, but the article talked about how North Minneapolis had two gangs, and there's several shootings related to these two gangs. And they were already saying that the gangs controlled certain areas. And there was one gas station where they hit this other dude, did a hit on this other guy. That was one of the gang leaders. And they had went into the other territory. So they're already doing it. I've mentioned many times, you seeing military weapons confiscated in these shootings of brothers. Like whatever that one dude is who's definitely an agent called AK Nation. He want to show, how ratchet we are and us just killing us all the time. Well, again, look into some of these weapons and where these weapons is coming from. These weapons are coming from the military. You find it in Berettas, confiscated military equipment. So how's this stuff getting in the streets? It just didn't magically disappear. Hey, Lorenzo, I'm like, hey, what's happening? Thanks for joining me. How many guns in the U.S.? That's right. It's millions. It's probably 1 billion guns in the U.S. May take whole families on front lines, though. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Nothing less than that. Yep. Nothing less than that. It's going to take that kind of push to control your neighborhoods and keep it on. But see, this is the problem. This is the problem that people with power get. So a certain family says they clear out 7 to 10 blocks. The corruption is going to go to those families. That's how the corruption works. They see who has the power, little corruption. And the corruption will be a little at a time. Before you know it, they operate in the same way. So that's the guard. It's like, once you have to take your neighborhood, know that you're not getting any help, and that the people that come in, if you do achieve those victories, they're the enemy. They're the enemy. So that's how it's going to have to be handled. Hey, Joe. Oh, their system is falling. I would agree. Again, I wrote a little poem that says, we outnumber them. They couldn't stop us if everybody pitches in. And that's a fact. And just like the fake thing we saw in D.C. in January. What did I say back in January? Wasn't no killers with them. They giving all these dudes time for trespassing and burning some shit, but there was no killers with them. There's very efficient killers in America. If that was real on January, it'd have been some killers in there, and it wouldn't have been any publicity. The killers just would have went in there and did their business, and they'd have been making calls and going in there saying where they found bodies. This is how real military operates. So what you saw in January was just acting, because really what I called for was everybody in America go up there and do what the Pullman dude, Randolph said that he wanted King and them to do, is go in there and put enough people in the Capitol to shut it down so they couldn't do business. And what did Malcolm say King did? He went from one dead president to the other. They didn't do what Philip Randolph suggested, shut the government down. And that's why I said every American from the West Coast on, go far as you can up there and demand, because the Constitution calls for, if the government is corrupt, it's supposed to be overthrown. Because senators is like a lifetime position. Biden been in there 40 years. And what was they saying? What did you achieve in 40 years? Other than getting a drug addicted son, sacrificing a wife, sacrificing 2 children. What else did he do other than that? Crime bill. They hated Hillary for the crime bill. As much as they hated Trump, they hated Hillary more because of the crime bill. And that was a vote out of hate, more than just as much as anything. That vote was out of hate. The people was against Hillary because they hated her. Well, same thing. And as I said before, I heard my mother say something that I had read in a book. So you can tell it's a type of spell passed out. Yeah, Philip Randolph. Thank you. Yep. The U.S. is the military. Rome is the Vatican, and France is the money. You know what I mean? There you go. So Carl had a chance to do that, but failed. I don't think they really wanted to do it, though. They don't really want their type of life. You know, Europeans, they like the advantages that this life gives them. That's what they like. They like the life that this country gives them. And I don't know, and it's favoritism more than it's white superiority, which is, again, that's a spell word to make you think something. It's really not. It's really a word not to use, because there's nothing superior about them other than the money system and the military. The things that we've been kind of kept out of and haven't been allowed to get the power from those things. Desperate and dangerous, so don't play their games. They went on the Sunday. Yeah, that's a good point. But they're desperate. They're desperate. They are desperate, more desperate than I think I've ever seen them. So that's why all this is rolling out, all the censorship. People have pushed back double the numbers. People have pushed back double the numbers. People have refused double the numbers they're telling you. They're double the numbers. And as I've said before, the reason why the push with the athletes is because some people only understand life through sports. And I've said this many times. Some people aren't sophisticated. So if they watch sports and athletes are doing it, then that's how they get their political ideas, is from watching sports. That's why they have so many athletes doing it, because there's so many people that really aren't into politics. but they're into sports. They're not sophisticated. They've been just, watch sports their whole life, and they kind of did what athletes kind of suggested, and that got them by. I mean, we still have a lot of functional illiterates in this country, even though I'll say Facebook has helped a lot of people with grammar because the grammar police on Facebook be tapping you. And it's like my ex-wife sent me some shit, and I'm like, this is a chick that could barely read. And I'm like, wow. So Facebook has helped her because, again, you have to communicate freely. And people kind of look down on you if you spell funky on Facebook, especially you in a woman's DM and can't spell. I really, spelling for sure. Do you know about the significance of the White House being on Capitol Hill? Well, all that land was once taken by the Catholics. It was called, we know Virginia, but it was another Jesus-like name. So all that area, and it was probably mounds on Capitol Hill. Probably mounds. So if you know a little more than that. I don't watch First Take. I don't really watch Undisputed. I get up and read. So don't really watch them. I'll start watching The Money. A little bit I'll catch First Take after it's been on. I usually start off with Wiley, but this is what I've come to realize. And you have to watch these shows to kind of monitor them, but it's like watching sports is so one-dimensional. Let me back up. Watching the talking heads is so one-dimensional and has really nothing to do with what's going on in the real world. I mean, they're talking about athletes, future games, past games, and it's like in the real world, that doesn't gain you anything from knowing that knowledge. And so after a few minutes of watching it, I'm ready to move on because what they're talking about for hours has nothing to do with real life. And as much as I monitor them, I get tired of them very easily because there's so much more going on in life than what they're saying about these athletes. And so I get bored with them. Stephen Smith he got Big House fired after Big House recruited him. And Big House was old. I'll say that. When I was in school, A&T played against Winston. That was the first game every year, and Big House was probably in his 80s then. So when I was 18, Big House was probably in his 80s, and Big House had coached in the 60s. He was older, no doubt. I think Stephen A. Smith, I left A&T in 82. I think Smith got out of there in 89, so we would have never went to school together. But Big House coached, I think, until 88, and so he probably coached to his mid-80s. So was Big House past it? Probably. But still, they could have let the man go out his own. But no, strong discernment other than the mounds. I don't know what that means. We are all humans. No, that's not true anymore. There's a lot of non-humans on here. I've talked about that many times. There are a lot of non-humans living on Earth, and they are comfortable. They are not in the shadows anymore. And there are a lot of them. And I don't know how I'm able to have the sensitivity to see them, but it was a young girl that was in the house. And she's a stripper, but she was a non-human. And I guess one of my sons used to date her before they brought her over, but I don't know how she was a non-human. Cool, nice, everything. And I guess she makes a good deal of money stripping, but she was a non-human. So there are a lot of non-humans that don't care about humans. So keep that in consideration. Most of us. There you go. Yeah, most of us. Yeah, these sports talk shows are telegraphing the script. And I've said before, strong discernment, that's a good point, because I've said before that is sometimes why I watch them, because they do give away part of the script. They really do. And I'll say that's a good part. That is something that you watch them enough, you can kind of get those hints how the games are going to go. I agree. I'm the same way. I look at Stephen A. Smith as a sellout too. Oh yeah. It's like the disappointing thing of Kwame Brown is he had a strong platform, and he still just is the same shit, just talking about people, talking about other melanated men for the most part. So like, now it's cool you gave away shoes, right? Trade schools should get back in there, but like, there's really no heart, no push for the trade schools or legislation, or even trying to, get people to donate in the school district you in to see if they can put those programs in, or get some investors to set up a charter school, make a charter school of technical skills. I mean, hell, brother Nick Clark, excuse me, brother Nick Taylor. Nick Clark is another one of my friends, but brother Nick Taylor took his own time and effort and had a weekend where he taught some people just basic welding. I mean, Kwame had enough money to do that. I mean, when we did the Midnight League. When we did the Midnight League, we had 2 months, and they had to be 3 times a week at the gym. The first game was at 9 o'clock, so everybody had to be in the gym at 8, every team. And so when you weren't playing, you were in the classroom. Now, granted, we gave them shoes, jerseys, something to eat while they was there. And later, the Midnight League became a true pro league in Chicago. They was paying them cash. But we were teaching these skills, and we were bringing people in to teach these skills. For 2 months, we had these people. Oh, maybe like 6 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. But for 6 weeks, we had professionals coming in to teach these classes. Because the last game actually, so what was it, 9? The next game was 10:30, and then the last game was about 12:30. And so you had to be in the gym that whole time. So if you played the first game, you had to stay until the last game ended because you was in a class. So you played a game, and the other time you was in a classroom. I've said before how brothers didn't know, most brothers can't wear regular deodorant. You got to wear the antiperspirant, just little things like that, teaching people. So I'm sure Kwame Brown could have done something like that easily. But instead, he's still just talking about people. There's no growth there. And so it shows that he's just a pawn. He's not a person he's in it for him. He was never famous, and he looked at this opportunity as making him famous. Because there's a difference between playing ball for 12 years and being famous. Kwame Brown was never famous. There's a lot of dudes. Jalen Rose is another one. Jalen wasn't famous playing basketball, not pro basketball. He was famous playing college basketball. And some could argue off his college career alone, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Because the Basketball Hall of Fame is not just the NBA Hall of Fame. It's basketball. So. Son was cracking alien. Oh, yeah. If I had a picture, I'll show a picture of her. You can see she's cool, though. But, I mean, it's a lot more than what you say. He calls Skip a Dracula face. Yeah, he does. That is funny. Hey, CWE, thank you for joining. Allergies kicking your ass, OG. Not so bad. Gosh, I had an attack. Started last Friday. I had a bad allergy attack last Friday. Woo, sneezing, ribs, and that's the bad thing about sneezing is the next day your ribs be all sore. I don't know if you can see the plant. Guess not. Move the leaves. I don't think none of the leaves. Yeah, right here. I have 2 plants right here. And I think, because, when you have plants in your house, they do clean the air for you. I think I'm sensitive when they clean the air. So whatever they release to clean the air, I think I'm sensitive to. Plus, I live near a lake. And so the mold down here is more acceptable because we live near a lake. And like if you lived in the city, the mold content would be less acceptable, but because we live down here near the lake, it's kind of acceptable. So probably a combination of the two. So, but I was kind of getting over strep a little bit. My throat's still a little, it's better. But let me tell you what, I've really been on the kick. When I showed that pickleball, we've been going to pickleball good 2 months. And I've learned that because again, I bought just early rackets. And what's embarrassing is, or cheaper rackets, just getting into it. The cheap rackets have dead spots. So it's like it'll hit your racket, the ball will hit your racket, and it's like clink, and it won't go the way you want it to go. And what's beautiful about the sports is like you could take two dudes like me and play some women, and you could think you could just slam it on the women. The women can return it. Some of the women will give it back to you, but it's like it's so interesting. And the way they do it is kind of like those of you that play basketball, when you say next. So the way they do it there is they got holes where you put your paddle, and it's kind of funny. It's the same kind of thing as having next. You just put your paddle in line in the next four. But it's a like I do about 2.5 miles. I'll play 4 or 5 games and do about 2 to 3 miles. And so it's a great way to stay in shape. It's a great way to just be with cool people. We'll go indoors. Lifetime, we have Lifetime. They have it. And then there's a little school that's going to have it on Wednesday. So I'm going to try to keep in shape year round. I don't know if I could ever hoop again, but I just went and got a bottle of Zantac Saturday morning. Had to have it. I take, what's it called with a C? I take a couple. I take a couple every day. I take them in the morning, and I used to wonder why I would take naps in the mornings. But Claritin. I take Claritin, and I take one other one. And then I take the Flonase too. But like I did the Flonase last week, and that shit gave me the worst. I don't get headaches. Like I don't get headaches, but it gave me the worst sinus pressure I'd ever felt in my life. I mean, it was just and it was taking that Flonase because I had taken a couple of my pills, and before I had taken Flonase too. Whatever I did, it didn't help me at all. That put more pressure on my head. YouTube fame, when he first started, he had like 25,000 in his chat because he's talking some stuff that shock value and personal things about well-known people. That's a good point, Lorenzo. It was. Yeah, because I was watching him one time and it was like 20,000 people. And he was even surprised. He's like, damn, 20,000, which we know is not organic. They can build any numbers up. Like I said about my own work, even on my other channel, my two best shows is Zach shared my Dame Dollar beating Oklahoma over Paul George in the Bye Bye Wave. That on Zach's channel did 100,000 views. On my other channel, on my old channel that got taken away, my best one was 62,000 views on the late hit of Adley Dalton when he played for the Cowboys. Now, far as showing grip gloves, showing the magnetics, the one with the one finger and the one with the claw, those were far better videos than the Andy Dalton. So there was no reason that video of Andy Dalton should have done 62,000 views. There was nothing special about that video. Oh, and when I showed the Watts brother hurting Cam's shoulder on purpose, I think that one did about 30 or 40,000 views too. A lot of people said he didn't, but he targeted Cam Newton's arm, and Cam has never been the same passer since. And that's, I watched him hurt Gale Sayers on purpose. They hurt like Barkley. I showed a video on my old channel of his rookie year when they tried to hurt him on purpose, and then they finally got to him. Fall and winter allergies have turned into year-round. Yeah, I agree with that. My daughter has them too. That seems to be like my family line especially. Like my 20-year-old son, he has them. Like he can hardly be over here. Right? He used to live here, and he had to take a lot of medicine, but the cats kind of get him, both cats. And so over here be tough. Like the young man we left, he had asthma and allergies, the young man that just passed a couple weeks ago. So I've got a nebulizer in here in case it gets real bad. Like I take my inhaler with me when I play pickleball. Like today I was like, time out. And it helped. But once he started beefing with other YouTubers, people started seeing that he's true intention and those views drop. Yeah. It's nothing new. There's nothing really new that he did. And that was Kwame's, again, he was never famous. And he in his eyes, YouTube was making him famous. People was talking about him, everybody watching him because he never was famous. I mean, of course, groupies is going to know who you are, but you ain't on ESPN like that. you ain't in commercials like that. I mean, I don't think Kwame ever did a commercial in LA. I could be wrong, but you in LA and you ain't doing commercials? I mean, Bill Walton's son did commercials. I mean, it's, you look off being in New York or being in LA, and maybe if I said New York, excuse me, but being in LA, those two places where you should be doing commercials or you're lame. You in any of those cities, like you watch old 60 programs, you'll see some of the old Rams in them commercials. You know, Deacon Jones, Merlin Olsen, they had a dance group. Lamar Ludley and Rosie Greer, they had a little dance group where you can see one of them singing and they dancing in the back on Ed Sullivan. Ed Sullivan was like a variety type show. Those long kips are making special teams eggs. Oh my goodness, strong discernment. That last kick was so ridiculous. And I have not, like, even the angle I showed is not, there was a better angle. There was a better angle during the game, and something was going on where I didn't tape it. But when let me see. Yeah, there was another angle they showed where you got a clear look on how the ball hits it, goes up in the air, and then vaults forward. That ain't real. That ain't real. I mean, how does it gain momentum by going in the air? If it hits a solid object, once it hits that object on ricochet, it is only going to have so much ricochet power. Not this thing. This thing had enough ricochet power to hit it and go in the air and vault it over. And for those of you that have watched me long enough, it's the same missile technology that they use to make the baskets go in. Bounce it up in the air, and remember what they used to do? Boop, boop, boop. And then they changed the boop, boop, boop. It's bounce it up in the air, catch the lip, and roll it in. Same kind of missile technology. You know, attract it to something, vault it, and then bring it over. Because the number of times, and this is why I'll say this too, is I think that is the main reason they wanted the extra point back further. They had more control. I really believe that they have more control putting the extra point back instead of where it was. So now they put it back. You see more extra points missing. They think because of the distance, but for kickers, that's a chip shot. But well, thank you, Lorenzo. Yeah, thank you. Have you tried acupuncture? Never for my allergies, but yeah, I get it done about twice a month. Yeah, about twice a month I get it done. Shoot, he sticks it into where I've had my surgeries on my Achilles. He sticks it all. I look like a porcupine when I get in there. But yeah, I've never had it for that. They tried to deflect the magnet post. A kicker attempted a longer kick, and they returned it to it for a touchdown. Yeah, I saw that. And that was a mocking, too. That was a mocking. And someone said that was a record. I think they tied the record because the book right here. I want to say that the record can't be because the field of play is only 109 yards. So I want to say several people hold that record, too. And I want to say George Hallis, that the Kasky family is his family. But I think maybe his record was 106, but maybe I'm wrong. I'd have to look it up, which record it is. But yeah, it's a bunch of, but yeah, that's another mocking. Remember the Auburn game? You know, they returned it and Auburn ended up winning, beating Alabama because nobody wanted to tackle the dude who got the kick. Remember that? It was a 68-yard go attempt, and they sent the returner out and shared like he's still right. Nobody will do that. Nobody will rarely do that. These is muscle relaxers and pain pills. There we go. Yep, exactly, Jay. Yep, they sent him out there for that. Yeah, tied the record. Yeah, tied the record. That's what I thought. He tied the record. Yep, a scripted return. How do you not want to use linebackers, DBs? Yeah, exactly. Because them big dudes ain't used to tackling. And one of the talking heads made that point, but that was a valid point. Them big dudes ain't used to making the tackles, so that's something that, yeah, yeah. As a Hester was the first to run a six for kick six for 100 yards, but I want to say Hallis. Let me see where the book is. It's a book on top of it. I want to say George Hallis has a record in there too, for returning a fumble. So he returned a fumble in the end zone back. So he's somewhere in there too. And that was in the 20s. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, they was doing all about his court case. But why would anybody want Sherman? That's what I don't understand. After he tore his Achilles, he was like, I don't think it, maybe it was on my old channel. I don't know. Maybe it's like last season where he's getting beat by the Packers and he's chasing the dude. Maybe that's on this channel. So you might be able to go back and look at that one where Sherman gets beat so bad, he's chasing from behind. The dude done burned him so bad. The Bears DB had a field goal return as well. I don't think it was 109 yards, though. Okay. Well, let me see. Let me grab this Hallis book. Give me a second. Or this NFL from the 60s. And this is a revived edition. This didn't come out in 69 of the first 50 years. So this will give the records. Hallis has one of these records. I'll see his picture. Somewhere in here, he's got a record. And I know this don't go past 74. But I thought his return was in here. Well, maybe I'm wrong. Might be, let's see, it's a picture of him because it's one of the, because they were the Staleys. Their name was the Staleys, the Decatur Staleys, right here. 1919 should be right in here. Oh, maybe not. Thought they mentioned that he got an interception though. I had a better book on the history of football. It's a little better than this book. No, they don't talk about his punt return or this fumble return in this one. I thought this picture they had of him, they did. Okay. Guess I was wrong. It's somewhere in there though. The Bears just purchased some Arlington Heights horse racing stadium land. Yeah, I saw that. I saw the mayor try to, they getting up out of there. But they think about it like this. Soldier Stadium has been there since World War II. They did upgrades to it in 06, 05, 06. They did upgrades. Well, look out, that's 15 years ago. And stadiums, stadiums get old quick. So yeah, they and it's hard playing off of Lake Michigan too. If you've ever, the coldest game I've ever sat and watched was one of those Bear games. I mean, that Hawk, and those from Chicago know what I'm talking about when I say the Hawk. That Hawk will hit you. Woo! It's not a fun place to watch a football game right off of Lake Michigan. They didn't think that one out. Sherman might get the Man of the Year award. That's interesting. Yeah, but I saw that. Yeah, it's owned by the Park District. Because if you remember, well, a lot of you guys probably don't remember, but when I first started watching Bear games, they was playing in Wrigley Field. They was playing at the baseball park. And then they moved to Soldier Field. They fixed it up, I want to say, for the 67 season, 68 season. Yeah. Maybe even 70 season, they started playing in Soldier Field. But from, like, you watch Gale Sayers' early films, he playing in Wrigley Field. on the baseball place. And so they need their own place. They need their own place. And they probably want to do crime. They probably want to get a little out of Chicago anyway. It's like what they did with the Pistons when they moved to Auburn Hills, which was on the other side of Pontiac, which was quite a ways from Detroit, actually. So, and yeah, they want their own. You buy and build your own stadium like Jerry Jones. He built his own stadium, so he ain't got to share it with anybody. Like when you have taxpayer initiatives and stuff like that, you got to share it. But well, guys, thank you for joining. Wasn't gonna go too much longer. About an hour and a half is good. Sorry I didn't give advance warning. I just felt a little inspiration to come on. How do I put this? Sometimes this is like therapy, and I don't mind passing my knowing and talking about where my awareness is, but don't have the motivation, I guess, like I once had. I don't mind teaching, I don't mind sharing. So it's not selfishness, it's just, the motivation to do this. But I will share one thing. Let me see if I can get it. This is what's interesting. I have about 6 or 7 pieces of motivite, not just this piece I wear, but this was the piece that was on my Verja. Well, let me see how I can do it. It's so small. Oh, there we go. So this ain't glass. This is real motivite. And this little piece right here, I don't think I spent $10 for this little piece. And this little piece right now, I could probably get $50 for this. This stuff has really, really went up in price and value. Because I had it glued onto here and I knocked this over and so it fell off. So wondering if I want to glue it back. But yeah, this stuff has been a good investment. Like some of my big drops, big pieces, almost double what I paid. It's like some of my big pieces I paid $200, I can get $400 for them. The big piece I used to wear, I can get about $400, and I only paid about $180 for that piece. So it's turned out to be a pretty good. What's the word? Mockingbird. There you go, Conspiracy University. I love your work. Keep it coming. People are saying professional stadiums are CERN spots and they suck all the energy from the fans. That's a good point. Thanks. Yeah, it's probably worth it. It's probably worth it. This stuff is. I'm watching other sites, and this stuff is really, really, really. This motivite is really. This has picked up its value. But out there, don't order from China. They will send you glass. Get it from the Czech Republic if you can. If you have a local person, go see them. Maybe something that I've always heard Einstein and supposedly built one of the atomic bombs under the University of Chicago field. What's funny is, okay, if you recently watched the Ken Burns about the PBS special, when Ali did the fight in Zaire, the stadium they used for Ali's fight in Zaire with George Foreman, that was one of the prisons. They don't tell you that part, that was where they had locked people up too. Like they show you a little bit of it from the side, but they have people locked up in like where you saw looked like a little warehouse or something around the stadium. They were saying that's where they locked people up. They had people locked up in that. That was some of his, whoever the dictator was at the time. That's where they had him. But Conspiracy University, we might can trade for some gold. I know you got the gold tip, so we might can trade for some gold. I'm always up for that because I've got more than I could need. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. I will give everybody the kind words of Mora. If I can find it. I will give the kind words of Mora. This is a little of Time Walkers. It all starts with a gentle sadness. They came from their original homeland. They knew that they had exact number of years and days before they would disappear off the earth as a culture and a lifestyle. But the civilization would build to a gentle love. They lived in the Creator's day and knew how to separate cycles in the gray serpent. And as the Mayan would say, I am another yourself. This is the Chocolate Mountain Show. Thank you. Till we meet again.